Good morning, CCSP. Today is Thursday, February 18th, 2021, and it is a period 1 through 5 day. Wow, looks like it's going to be another snowy day, huh? The snow just started here. I hope that you're safe and well and warm. I'm telling you, I'm really excited to find out what's going to happen in our story next because I was on pins and needles when the man was getting ready to take out his belt and whip little man, and dad said, "Don't do it." Now I'm thinking about that period of time and what would happen to a man, a man of color, who said something or anything to a Caucasian man that would be interpreted as being challenging. So I'm like, what's going to happen next? We'll find out in a few. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let's get into the story. So remember, when Miss Ramirez stopped, she had just gotten to the point where the gentleman had taken off his belt and was getting ready to whip little man. And Cassie and her brothers were standing by going, "Don't do it, don't do it." And a voice spoke and said, "Put the boy down." And the gentleman said, "Okay, David." We have not met David so far, so this will be our introduction to David, Cassie's dad. As we ran up the ridge to Papa, Mr. Anderson said, "It's good to have you home, boy." Papa said nothing until we were safely behind him. "Take them home, Stacy." "But Papa." "Do like I say, son." Stacy herded us away from the men. When we were far enough away so Papa couldn't hear us, Stacy stopped and handed me Lady's reins. "Y'all go home now," he said. "I gotta go help Papa." "Papa don't need no help," I said. "He told you to come with us." "But you don't know what he's gonna do." "What?" I asked. "He's gonna blow up the forest if they don't get out of here. So go home, where you'll be safe." "How's he gonna do that?" asked little man. "We've been setting sticks of dynamite since the middle of the night. We ain't even been up to the house 'cause Papa wanted the sticks planted and covered before the men came. Now, Cassie, take them on back to the house. Do like I tell you for once, will you?" Then, without waiting for another word, he was gone. "I want to see," little man announced. "I don't," protested Christopher John. "Come on," I said. We tied the mare to a tree, then belly crawled back to where we could see Papa and joined Stacy in the brush. "Cassie, I told you." "What's Papa doing?" The black box was now set upon a sawed-off tree stump, and Papa's hands were tightly grasping a T-shaped instrument which went into it. "What's that thing?" asked little man. "It's a plunger," Stacy whispered. "If Papa presses down on it, the whole forest will go up." Poof! Our mouths went dry and our eyes went wide. Mr. Anderson's eyes were wide too. "You're bluffing, David," he said. "You ain't gonna push that plunger." "One thing you can't seem to understand, Anderson," Papa said, "is that a black man always gotta be ready to die. And it don't make me any difference if I die today or tomorrow, just as long as I die right. Mr. Anderson laughed uneasily. The lumberman moved nervously away. I mean what I said, Papa said. Ask anyone. I always mean what I say. He sure do, Mr. Anderson, Claude said, eyeing the black box. He always do. Shut up, Mr. Anderson snapped, and the rest of y'all stay put. Then turning back to Papa, he smiled cunningly. I'm sure you and me can work something out, David. Ain't nothing to be worked out, said Papa. Now look here, David. Your mama and me, we got us a contract. There ain't no more contract, Papa replied coldly. Now either you get out of or I blow up. That's it. He means it, Mr. Anderson, another frightened lumberman ventured. He's crazy, and he sure enough mean it. You know what could happen to you, boy, Mr. Anderson exploded, his face beet red again. Threatening a white man like this. Papa said nothing. He just stood there, his hands firmly on the plunger, staring down at Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson could not bear the stare. He turned away, cursing Papa. You're a fool, David, a crazy fool. Then he looked around at the lumbermen. They shifted their eyes and would not look at him. Maybe we better leave, Mr. Anderson, Tom said quietly. Mr. Anderson glanced at Tom, then turned back to Papa and said as lightly as he could, All right, David. All right. It's your land. We'll just take the logs we got cut and get out. He motioned to the men. Hey, let's get moving and get those logs out of here before this crazy fool gets us all killed. No, Papa said. Mr. Anderson stopped, knowing what he could not have heard correctly. What you say? You ain't taking one more stick out of this forest. Now look here. You heard me. But you can't sell all these logs, David, Mr. Anderson exclaimed incredulously. Papa said nothing, just cast that piercing look on Mr. Anderson. Look, I'm a fair man. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you another $35, an even $100. Now, that's fair, ain't it? I'll see them rot first. But that was my last word, Papa said, tightening his grip on the plunger. Mr. Anderson swallowed hard. You won't always have that black box, David, he warned. You know that, don't you? That may be, but it won't matter none, 'cause I'll always have my self-respect. Mr. Anderson opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Tom and the lumbermen were quietly moving away, putting their gear in the empty lumber wagons. Mr. Anderson looked again at the black box. Finally, his face ashen, he walked away too. Papa stood unmoving until the wagons and the men were gone. Then, when the sound of the last wagon rolling over the dry leaves could no longer be heard, and a hollow silence filled the air, he slowly removed his hands from the plunger and looked up at the remaining trees, standing like lonely sentries in the morning. Dear, dear old trees, I heard him call softly. Will you ever sing again? I waited, but the trees gave no answer. Wow, is that how you thought it would end? That's not quite how I thought it would end. I'm glad that it ended peacefully, though.